Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, and wherever you are, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I know that you have a million things to do today and that your to do list feels never ending. And I also know that spending time growing and learning and developing your AI intuition will serve you in such good stead. And I'm grateful for all of you who are here because you're the people who we need to be leading the charge in the AI revolution, right? This is the fourth industrial revolution. Our lives have been forever changed. It's not going to magically go back to the way it was before. And those of you who are on calls like this and on listening to podcasts and speaking, your voice into this have such an incredible opportunity to help guide what this looks like, particularly in the nonprofit sector. So for those of you who I don't know yet and you don't know me yet, my name is Ann Murphy. I'm the CEO of AI Empowered Fundraiser. We are a group of a few people who work behind the scenes and run our company. And then we have 12 subject matter experts in the fundraising field and building our cohort of brilliant minds in AI who have nonprofit expertise and can help us serve our clients. Because as I keep saying to everybody, the tsunami has already hit. Maybe there's like a bigger one. I don't know. We keep hitting new levels. But we love serving our clients in nonprofit and higher ed, and we are just about oversubscribed. So we're working with a group of people who are getting ready to start taking on clients. So know that even if we're super busy, I will be able to refer you to someone who has the rare combination of nonprofit and fundraising expertise and AI skills and ability to teach and train and consult. So that's an exciting development in our world. I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest today. Her work and her passion, her creativity is an example of what is so needed in our world at this very time, this very moment. I trust that her voice is one of the voices that we can all count on as we navigate this super, super wild west. I wanted to just, before I bring Heidi on, I wanted to just share a couple of observations of what I've been seeing in AI as a tool, really. In this case, it's as a tool for supporting our self-actualization at work, supporting our banishment of imposter syndrome and our ability to distance ourselves from imposter treatment. If you have been listening to me for a little while or reading my posts on LinkedIn, you know that I firmly believe in imposter treatment, and I put a lot less, I under-index imposter syndrome. I don't believe we're imposters, and I don't believe it's a syndrome. But we're running our AI summer camp right now with a group of 11 brilliant leaders in the nonprofit sector. And what we've been talking a lot about is how we show up wholly and fully in our own leadership skills right now. And what we're learning is that each of us have had, there's some common denominators of experiences that we've had in our lives and in our careers where if we're able to just kind of go back and forth with a thought partner, someone who's non-judgmental, right? Somebody who is going to challenge our limiting beliefs, somebody who's going to give us advice and then help us figure out what strategy might be best. particularly in light of how difficult it can be to find a mentor in your industry who, the higher up you go, the more wisdom and experience you've had, the fewer mentors there are if you're looking for somebody who's like farther along in your career path. And, one of the things that women and other underrepresented people have in common is that it can be particularly hard to find someone who's both a mentor and a sponsor. And so we're often left to our own devices to figure out how to navigate an increasingly complex world. And so we've been spending some time talking about how each of us uses ChatGPT as our mentor, as our 24/7, non-judgmental, here to please, ride or die if we want mentor, and working through situations like this morning we were talking about how do you push back on an unrealistically tight timeline. And what I realized in that moment is that I have never once in my whole career had the words, had the wherewithal to say, can you tell me more about this deadline and, why it is what it is? And do we have some alternatives, or could we go this direct? Like anything like that, I never, ever, ever questioned a deadline. I just did it. Probably a function of my Gen X upbringing, but nonetheless, looking at different ways that we can use ChatGPT and other large language models to help us work through our options when we have a critical conversation coming up. We also explored a scenario where you need to give critical feedback to somebody who has more power or proximity to power in your own ecosystem, right? What do you do? How do you say those things that could be difficult to hear? And one of the ways we navigated that is by fully developing the persona of the person who we're thinking of talking to, right? So you may be able to identify what some of the objections might be, what some of the triggers might be, how that person might respond, right? And so how you can approach it accordingly, being able to go through, even though it's just kind of, it may feel sometimes like common sense. What I find is, particularly when I'm a little bit keyed up because something is particularly important or nervous making, my my span of creative options gets kind of shrunk. I develop blinders. And so when I can see 3 or 4 options in front of me and begin to evaluate them, isn't that so cool? So I wanted to just share a couple of practical tips about using ChatGPT as a thought partner and how meaningful that can be in your leadership journey. And I think this dovetails really nicely with what Heidi is up to and what some of the work that she's put out into the world and the experience she brings to her leadership in the AI space. You're going to Well, I personally am dazzled by what she's up to, and I'm quite sure that you will be as well. I want to share a couple of fun facts, and then I'm going to bring Heidi in to introduce herself in full, and we'll dive into a conversation about AI and ethics and the world that we want to have, and her work that she's done to help move us in a positive direction. So, um, when I asked Heidi for a fun fact, a quirky fact, she said, "Well, everything's kind of quirky." And I was like, "Ooh, tell me more." So she gave me a couple of anecdotes that I want to share. So she once hung out in a hotel room in London watching CNN with Margaret Thatcher. That's a pretty fun fact. Um, she once gave Henry Kissinger melatonin because he had forgotten his. And she also has lived in a castle. So, having said those things, I'm going to bring Heidi on to share the other aspects, the maybe slightly less quirky aspects, but maybe not, of her life and her career. So, everybody, please meet Heidi Lorenzen.
Oh my goodness, where do I go from there?
Maybe start with your career as a
Yeah.
CMO in tech and media.
Yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, usually those aren't the first things people know about me. But I wanted to comment on a couple things that you said because I really, they really resonated. Not about me, but about AI. First of all, you opened with saying something to the effect of, kind of we're the ones we're waiting for, right? This is our moment, and I do strongly believe that we all have a role to play to drive the change that
Mm,
we want want to see. I often talk about everybody being the prompt right now
mhm,
in this moment of time, and your audience sort of by definition focuses on impact and our change agents. So their voices are and perspectives are super important. The other thing you commented on is you mentioned this being sort of that next societal and industrial revolution, and we're not going back. And that is so true and just underscores the gravitas of the moment. I mean, some people say
mm,
this is the last technological invention that
mhm,
humans will make. And for that reason, this is, so much the time that we need to be really clear about what it means to be human. And I love that you are encouraging people to think about AI as as a mentor, because one
mhm,
thing that I try to do is I use it and encourage others so that we don't lose our humanity is to think about when we're using AI, how is it making us better, right?
mm,
As opposed to, just doing stuff for us.
mhm.
Um, so I just wanted to pick up on those things because they really resonated, and I appreciated that you brought all those up. Um, so yes, I am a rewired tech and media executive. I spent 35 years in those industries with companies like Business Week, Singularity University, which obviously had a big impact on the work that I'm doing now, Polycom and autonomy. And, when Chat GPT suddenly landed in everybody's hands, I just had this moment. It was almost like, an internal shock of, my gosh, the world is so not ready.
Yes.
And if we don't get this right, if we're not super intentional around
Mhm,
how we're shaping AI, how we're training it, how we're developing it, how we're using it, how we're governing it, then it's just going to keep learning from what it's been taught and what we've done. And we all know we don't always make the best decisions as a society. We create wars. We are very divisive, and we don't want that amplified and accelerated by AI. So this is a moment to be super intentional. And so I just in this sort of obsession around this moment in time, I ultimately founded the Humanity Code, and
mm,
it's committed to raising awareness of the urgency to ensure that we are encoding AI with humanity's best wisdom, our values, our morals, our dreams and aspirations before it's
mm.
too late. And we don't have a lot of time. And that's kind of what keeps me up at night, or actually just keeps me motivated during the day, is probably a better way to put it. And so the Humanity Code is both a documentary film that we are in pre-production for. I've got a fabulous director who shares the
Mhm.
vision, and others on the team who are just incredible. I also have a podcast. We encourage the community and actually provide materials for the community to host dialogue dinners, because I feel that we have so much to process as a species right now that the more conversation, the better. Um, so that's kind of where I've been and how I landed here.
Can you tell us about a dialogue dinner? What is that like?
Yeah, so it can essentially be whatever is on people's minds. But my hope for all of these, and whenever somebody hosts one, we take the nuggets of that conversation back, and it sort of feeds into the documentary. The story arc. It gives us a sense of what is in the zeitgeist that we want to be sure that we're addressing. But a dialogue dinner. Has a couple of key elements. I mean, first of all, it's just bringing together ideally a very diverse group of people, and
Mhm.
I don't mean that I mean that in the broadest sense of the
Mhm.
word. Every way that you can create, different voices and perspectives is ideal, and things that we found people are interested in talking about at first are sort of their fears, their concerns, their observations, what's making them uneasy. But
Mhm.
then building from there, going to, well, that what is the future that we actually want to create? Because literally we have the most powerful partner you can imagine to co-create that future with, if we focus on that and get that right and are
Mhm.
really focused on that. So we have this amazing partner. So what is that future? And that's the part that excites me, is that visioning. Because if you think about it, we don't have a vision for humanity as a species, right?
Mhm.
And it's super hard to get there, but there is a way, if we're, continuing to have these dialogues and discussions, to to get to those common links, those common things that we care about. And so after focusing on this vision, the next piece that we encourage people to talk about is then, well, what needs to be done if we're going to get from
Mhm.
where we are here to this ideal vision that we have. What are the things that need to be done now to ensure that's the case,
Mhm.
and what can we personally do?
Mhm.
So everybody walks away feeling really empowered and hopefully inspired. But that's a key underpinning of the humanity code, that everyone has a role to play. I personally think an obligation at this point,
Yes,
but
same.
but people do have a role. They can feel empowered, they do have agency. And whether it's how they use AI, whether it's asking the tough questions at work, like, how are we actually training our data, the AI, what data sets are we using, um,
Yes.
and or influencing policy, right? So there's so much that people can do, and I think the majority, mm, I mean, a lot of people feel that it's kind of up to the tech bros. Our destinies in the hands of the tech bros, and they do indeed wield a lot of power, for sure.
Mhm.
And all the more reason for all of us to get involved, so that the decisions that they're making are in all of our best interests.
That all is a mouthful. We could talk for 4 hours on the things that you brought up. When I think about opportunities to be in community, like
Mhm,
a dialogue dinner or an online community, or lots of people are doing more in-person
mhm,
events
mhm,
around AI. I have found that in this moment, community is more important than ever.
mhm,
I definitely didn't put as much value on community in the
mhm,
past, or maybe I just had like, maybe I was just, I'm kind of an introvert. And so my whole career has been an extrovert's career. And I've been managing it really in a way and kind of
mhm,
holding my breath through it. But now, that I got to really repot myself and figure out where I want to allocate my very best energy, it's undeniable that the benefit of being in community, it's like everything I pour in, I get back tenfold, particularly because what we're up to is so incredibly confrontational to our self-identity.
Yes.
And so many of us are questioning how we spent our life energy in the past, because now, like, all that is, we can be a little bit cynical about it and look at it as all the time I wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How much time have I wasted reading the same email 87 times to just try to find a synonym for the word support, right? And then I send the email and then I read it again, right? Like, and more profound examples of time that I can look back on and wonder, did I squander it? Now, I don't really, in reality, believe that that's the case. I believe that all of that led me to this very moment where I can really pour into what I think is my life's work.
Mm-hmm.
But the piece about community has been so critical because for me, especially in my industry where I don't have as many people who are, also in the AI bubble like me, also desperately, treading water some days to try to figure out what's happening with the
Yeah.
new, like how many things dropped yesterday and the day before. And, meanwhile, also trying to learn new skills and then wanting to share them with other people. And also, those of us who identify as writers or artists, marketers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fundraisers, all knowledge workers, plus just some of those deep seated things that we always thought were our like values and what was meaningful because we poured so much time into it, right? What are all the ceremonial things that we're used to doing that had meaning in part because we poured time into them? And what I found is, a group of people who I can talk to about this, who are somewhere similar on their journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who are facing that, the skills that they've acquired over the course of a lifetime are no longer quite as unique and not quite as valuable, right, as they were in terms of in a capitalist environment anyway. They're
Mm-hmm.
valuable, they're valuable to period,
Yeah.
patently, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also going to be not monetizable in the same way they have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask you about the dialogue dinners,
Mm.
because that seems like an important example of community.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, everything you said could be another 4-hour conversation, but totally, totally agree with the importance of community now. And I can relate with you as, not, while I love my fellow humans, I'm not. I've learned to be incredibly independent. I'm an only child.
Yeah.
I raised my kids by myself from, very,
Uh-huh.
very young. And so, yes, I'm incredibly, incredibly independent. And yet, this moment in time requires and it sort of demands of us, not, I said that, yes, it helps us process. There's that too. And that's so, so important. But it's also really critical that we are sharing with each other, because literally there is no one on the planet who does or can know everything about AI. No one can predict where this is going to go. So, because of that, we do need to be having conversations with each other, learning from each other. We bring so many different perspectives and areas of expertise that are going to help us both personally navigate through this, but then also, sort of collectively help define again that future that we hope to see. And you mentioned that it's just helpful to have people going through similar phases too.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine, Carolyn Caroline Calderon Chubb has a beautiful phrase. She calls it islands of coherence, and it just, creating these islands of coherence where we resonate, not in an echo chamber way, but in a way that we're uplifting and supporting each other, is again so needed right now. We've got a lot on, going on as a species, and we just need that support from each other.
I love this notion of islands of coherence. Coherence is a perfect way to describe, like, even just the basic experience of not having a shared vocabulary with your
Right.
regular peeps, your neighbors,
Mhm,
your friends, your
mhm.
family, where they don't want to hear all my words. I have now confirmed that my children are maxed out on my AI quote unquote conversations. So they're not quite as, much of a go-to resource for me as they would if we were talking about something else.
Mhm,
But having that shared vocabulary in particular is so important and true. I mean, making coherence out of it every day is hard. And I find myself more so than any other time in my life, my brain is trying to figure out a
mhm,
rational
mhm,
path, a conclusion,
mhm.
a direction at the very least. So in the middle of the night, Ethan Malik says, if you're not losing sleep, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And kind of everything Ethan says is like
Yeah.
gospel to me. Ethan, first name basis, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, he doesn't know about our parasocial relationship, but he may suspect it. But those nights when it's just like my brain wants to find purchase on
Mhm.
something, some foothold. And what you're sharing about that we don't have a vision for humanity
Mhm,
in the future, that I think encapsulates what I'm looking for.
mhm,
What is
mhm.
my own personal vision?
Right.
And typically I'll be honest, when I get pretty deep into that, I go to a dark place. I go to
Yeah,
a dark
and face
place.
yourself in the mirror, right?
Yes, yes. So can you talk about the film
Mhm,
and what's the scope of the film? And
mhm.
do you give us any answers? Do we get the cheat codes?
Yeah. I I love that question because the answer is no. And by design for, the reasons I just stated, that literally no one knows, nobody can predict where we're going. The best that we can do is inform each other and, co-envision really what we
Mhm.
want. And so that's my hope for the film, that it'll inspire that that kind of self-reflection, as you said, going to the dark places, personally, but collectively as society, as civilization. What have we done right? What have we? What would we rather not admit to? So the film, it will be a feature length documentary, and the story arc is such that it begins with sort of meeting people where they are, acknowledging that the fear, the concerns, the feelings of instability and irration, everything
Mm.
feels so irrational right now. Those are all
Mm.
super valid, right? Those are all incredibly, incredibly valid and true. This is a very frightening time.
Mm.
Um, Ultimately, what I do, even though I'm not, giving the ultimate, holy grail at the end of answers, what I do hope, though, is that they recognize that while the fears are really valid, that if we take action in right now in this short window of time, that the outcomes don't have to be the dystopia that we've seen in Terminator
Mhm.
and all the other things. But it's going to take action. We collectively, as 8 billion people, have a lot of work to do in the next couple of years. I mean, depending. So when I underscore the urgency, that's driven by what's known as AGI, or artificial
Yes.
general intelligence.
Can you talk about that? Can you
Yeah.
define that, where we are with AGI, which is so hard to keep track of
Yeah.
because no one it feels like nobody's really telling. Yeah, they're not telling us where they
Yeah,
are.
I know. It's not like we have, a ticker
We don't have a
timeline.
roadmap, right? And everyone's being like, "Oh, it's 7 years away. Oh, it's a month away." Like somewhere between a month and 7 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there are doomers, as they call them, who say it's already too late. But I'm not in that camp, and in any case, I believe that we still, are in a position to influence and shape AI. So there are a couple of terms that are all related to this. One is AGI, so artificial general intelligence, and that refers to the point in time where artificial intelligence is at our level of intelligence.
Mm.
And that, on average, most people are predicting it's 2 to 3 years away. Ray Kurzweil, who I had the privilege of working with at Singularity University, he was one of the founders of Singularity University, and he wrote "The Singularity is Near." Probably one of the gurus, the guru on all of this. His number has been for decades and decades of his research 2029, and here we are, just years away, and it feels very, very real. Others, say, okay, we may have 10 years, but I'm not hearing many people saying that we have anything more more than that. And the reason that point in time is important is because once AI is AGI, its ability to self-improve, learn, evolve,
Mm.
become the authority, the decision maker, et cetera, leads to sort of an intelligence explosion, as some people call it,
Mm.
where rapidly from that point onwards becomes far more advanced than human intelligence. And um, our ability at that point for us to influence AI's trajectory will be significantly diminished, if not lost entirely. And so that's why that is important, and why I have this sense of urgency that just keeps me going, that
Mhm.
we have this short window and we need to sort of rally as many
Mhm.
people as possible to recognize that, to think about what it is that we want. Other terms that are used that kind of go from that point. So once you're at that AGI and it starts learning rapidly and far exceeding, that's known as super intelligence.
Mm.
And so, that is the point where, you've gone past our own intelligence,
Mm.
and just things far beyond us. And then the singularity, there's, again, sort of multiple definitions, and all of these, there may be listeners who will say, well, no, that's not exactly what all these terms mean, but it's directionally correct. Uh,
Yes.
the singularity is the point in time where AI and technology just grows so advanced and far that it just fundamentally transforms life as we know it.
Mm.
There are even those who go so far as to talk about transhumanism at that point, where we're, implanting AI. I mean, it's already here, right?
Wearables.
Neuralink, and you even think about glasses
A
or
bear, yes.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, we're already enhancing ourselves as as humans, but the singularity could even get to the point where we don't even recognize ourselves. So there could be a whole new species, or there could be two species. Those are
Mhm.
who, are
Mhm.
the like us, the old school who hang out, and those who have like adopted, the new technology. So it gets really, really interesting. But the point being, we've got a lot to figure out now.
So, it's so tempting to try to distill all these things down to, I'm now lowering my desk, everybody. I finally got it raised up. Now I'm lowering it. It's tempting to dive in at the kind of very uber practical granular level,
Mm,
potentially overly basic level of what can the average everyday human being do with
yeah.
regard to shaping the future of AI, particularly as we look at the advent of AGI being not that far off.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so there are a couple points there. One is just literally everybody can do something. I think this is I think a lot about just every interaction that we
Mm.
have with AI, and, we have more AI that we're using than we're aware of. I mean, everything here in, in our phones is, has AI behind it in some way, shape, or form, and to be clear, when I say AI, I am referring to it in the broadest sense. Every flavor, generative and foundational models, all
Mm.
narrow AI, all of it. But the um, the role that individuals play, every interaction with an AI of some sort is teaching it something. So I like to take it to the extreme. Imagine if everybody on the planet, and we said 1, 2, 3, go, and everybody starts asking AI, how to build a bomb, how to destroy humanity, how to, burn up the planet, all these really awful things. And it's an extreme example for a reason. It AI would learn, oh, okay, this is where what they're wanting, and so we'll optimize for that. So, on the flip side, while that is a bit of a far-fetched example, it is true. We are teaching it something with every single interaction. There's some of us who joke, we always say please and thank you to our
Me too,
to
always, always.
to our AIs. And, it's just a little way of showing the values that we honor as individuals, as humans. So don't undervalue that, right? Just your
Okay,
own everyday interactions with AI. The
that's
other
cool.
Yeah, the other place, is at work. Even if somebody, and maybe even especially if somebody who doesn't work at a tech company, right? Your company's employees and leaders are using AI, and, authorized or not to do
Yes, yep.
so. And, and so, um, you as an individual employee can start asking the hard questions around what what AI is being used, how are we using it, what data are we exposing to the systems, and then if it is a tech company that's building some sort of tool with AI in it, then certainly making sure that there's a strong sort of AI council that represents a lot of different perspectives that are asking the tough questions, like how are we training the data, what if we extrapolate the work that this is doing, where that whatever this tool is, if we extrapolate that out 10 years, what impacts on society and humanity will that take. I co-authored with 4 other amazing women, who are all members of the Athena Alliance, a corporate AI governance playbook, where
Oh, I read that. I read
oh,
the whole thing.
amazing!
It's
Thank you.
phenomenal. I fed
Oh,
it into a custom GPT and
yeah,
talked to it a lot
nice,
because
nice.
I'm doing some of the same work for, our various clients, but
Mhm.
you all, I mean, that thing is comprehensive. Everybody
Wow.
go find that. It's what is the title of
It's the Athena Alliance AI governance playbook.
okay.
I can
I just am obsessed.
Thank
Okay, I'm putting
you.
it in here for everyone.
The The main, excuse me, the point I was going to bring up around that is what the foundational element of that, besides all the very specific things that you can do, is the duty of care, which is a literal legal term that board members, need to abide by and consider. But if all of our actions as employees, as tech developers, as leaders, as board members, whatever, line workers, if we're all kind of grounded in this duty of care, which is a moral, ethical, and legal obligation to ensure the well-being and safety of others, we're going to be making much better decisions.
Wow. Okay. So there's a thread in there that I wanted to pull on a little bit, which is our role as individuals training the AI models. And what I wanted to kind of unpackage a little bit is this kind of push-pull of, should we allow our data to go
Mm,
into the training set? And my point of view, and this may be just wrong-headed, my point of view is that, I don't put, like, PII
mhm,
into,
mhm,
and I personalize all data, right? About, like, donors and stuff, like, nothing goes in. I change the names, all proper nouns get changed.
mm,
Um, but other than that, like, I don't a lot of people worry about their IP going out into the world or stuff. Honestly, I feel like I don't do anything that's that, like, private. Even me writing my book, like, I you can have it. Like, I mean, it's just not that original. It's not, I'm not inventing something that's gonna change humanity. What do you think about us letting our stuff go out into the world?
Yeah. um, Many thoughts. I mean, the last part that you talked about of, let somebody take my book and read it. I mean, I do feel that again, we need to be, if it's anything to do with AI, we need to be sharing and be very
Yes.
generous right now with that. But more to the point around, PII, other personal information, there are major risks, cybersecurity risks, and just um, poor or even, maligned use of that data,
Mhm.
and that is very, very real. And so, um, whether I think we should all be judicious around what we are,
Mhm.
feeding into it. Like, don't put your personal information into it. Some people at work are, inadvertently putting, proprietary IP for companies in it, right? Those are all the no-nos. And so I think it is judicious to be careful, and we should be thinking about how can we um, increase that safety. And there's some some work that is being done by a variety of different organizations to ensure that the data is more secure and more decentralized. So
Mhm.
blockchain is a tool that is, is being used to help in that regard to keep things safe. Um, Another company called Hypercycle, talks about the Internet of AI, where
Mm.
um, it's not one central place, but rather, keeping data sets small and in, different um, um, different models, basically.
Mhm.
Is a key to solving that. So there's work being done in that regard, and so again, that's something where everybody can inform themselves what is being done, help support the efforts of the organizations that are, taking action to address that.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to ask you, who do you pay attention to?
Mm.
Who do you learn from? Who pushes you to be better?
Oh my goodness, so many. So, um, I mean, I'll say something that just may sound like I'm, throwing it out there, but literally everybody. Like, I am so surprised that I'll meet somebody and think that they have, that they may not know much about AI, and then they will just shed the most brilliant insights on things that they've been thinking about. So again, all the more reason we just need to bring out as many voices as possible. And again, that's what we're hoping to do with the Humanity Code, just elevate all those voices. Um, the, in terms of kind of the usuals on the AI or tech side, it's, and again, it runs, their perspectives run the gamut on, doom to whatever. But, there's Gary Marcus, there's Fei Fei Li, there's Ray Kurzweil, there's Aza from Center for Humane Technology and Tristan Harris. Mo Gaudat is an amazing thinker on this, and that takes me to sort of this other bucket. So I track, the usual cast of characters. Jan LeCun is another one, but the other bucket that I think is super, super important. Oh, sorry. Before I go there, there's this other bucket of policymakers, right? So whether that's Kay Firth, Butterfield, and those who are really shaping AI, that's who I keep an eye on as well. But this bucket that I think is unique are those who help us understand what it means to be human, because that's really the moment that we're in right now. I mean, yes, it's all about the technology. Technology is sort of the protagonist of the moment. AI is the protagonist of the moment, but it's really, all the questions are really human questions right now. So you mentioned artists, and so absolutely, I follow likes of Rafiq Anadol, who is an amazing AI artist that just shows how AI can help us be more creative, more human, etc. Spiritual leaders, as an example, they really are the ones who, from the beginning of society, are helping us understand what it means to be human, who we are, what is our purpose. Somebody, I always have followed, but even more so, or is even becoming increasingly relevant, Deepak Chopra, who has a book coming out in the fall about AI and his the implications of that on our, our spiritual beings, our sense of humanity, and all of that. So it really runs the gamut. While I keep an eye on for personal use, those who are sharing, tips and tricks on how to use the tools. I mean, that definitely keeping an eye on that. But where I stay grounded are on those who are really, thinking about the longer term implications or helping us reflect what it means to be human.
So this is so good. And by the way, everybody, we now have a show notes page, and all of the resources that Heidi just mentioned and the thought leaders will be called out there. If I can get my hands on the URL, I will drop it in the chat. It's so new. I don't even know if I have that. We're growing and learning just like everybody else. As we, have been on this journey to create our show notes, we've learned a lot about where we should use AI and where we should just suck it up and continue pressing a lot of buttons to get information from point A to point B. But What I wanted to bring up, everybody. So everybody, I will drop this in the chat, hopefully, if I get it. But I wanted to circle back to your meditation practice and
Mm,
how that has helped you think about all of this stuff, because
mm,
it's so existential.
yeah, it really is. So, I actually um, recently was at a conference where Deepak Chopra was there, and um, I asked him the question. I was pretty sure I was going to know the answer, and he absolutely did give the answer that I expected. But I asked him, "What are the questions we should be asking ourselves right now as a society as we're navigating this?" And he um, referred to what he calls the soul questions, and are
Mm.
the underpinning of his, the way that he teaches meditation, which is how I've been certified. And those are, who am I? What do I want?
Mm.
What is my purpose?
Mm.
And what am I grateful for?
Oh.
And I think that if we all reflect on those deeply, that will help us figure out kind of where we sit in this point in time. It'll help us, ensure that we have AI make us better people as opposed to just being
Mm.
more efficient at doing the stuff that we're not built for. This stupid.
Mhm.
Um, and and what I think is really fascinating and important and critical is that we really need to do this at scale. I mean, like 8 billion people scale of reflecting, who are we? Who are we as a species? Who are we as humanity? What do we want? What is that vision? You have to begin with the end in mind. Um, and what is our purpose? So why are we here? What do we bring versus technology? And then what are we grateful for? So those are the things that we know we want to, maintain as we build out AI. We want to make sure, AI learns our values, our morals, our aspirations and dreams. Um, so I think that the parallel is really really relevant. The inner work is the work right now, I think, and will greatly improve the external outcomes.
Yeah. You talked about how our inner work can, I made a note, our inner work can spread to global spheres.
Mhm, mhm.
Talk about that. How does that, I haven't, global, to the global human species,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, how does,
Yeah, it's
talk
it's
about that
this
for a sec.
concept of, yeah, scaling that, right? How do we ask these collective questions, taking our own spiritual reflection and thinking about it instead of just the I, but the we.
Yeah.
And kind of in the process, if we are again doing the inner work, hopefully we do recognize that we are more interconnected and entangled than we realize, not just with each other as humans, but with nature, with animals,
Yes.
and that's not stardust talk. I mean, that's like literal science. And so it's when you do that inner work, that becomes more obvious, that
Yes.
interconnection, and then the decisions that we make tend to be more beneficial to humanity and the planet.
One of the thoughts that has crossed my mind a whole bunch, especially when I'm in conversations with women from all around the world and we're having these kind of existential, crises, is how underqualified we are to talk about this particular juncture in
Mhm.
our, human lives, our individual times on this planet, and how we need like spiritual leaders and therapists and coaches to like pour in to these communities, these conversations, because we're just like flailing around trying to help each other. We don't know what we're doing. And I've often thought, like, this needs to be where I'm getting support because it's too much. It's just too much sometimes. And I'll give a specific example in my case as we kind of wrap up. As I really believe in that learn, do, teach cycle of, when we start to feel like we're the fifth grader to the fourth graders, then we
Right,
become the mentors, we become the
right.
guides. And as we pour into others, like I said, you get so much, back in return, but you're also even solidifying your own learnings, right? And you're
Absolutely.
giving yourself, a nudge on your journey, and you're able to remind yourself, like, ooh, I feel like I'm just overwhelmed, but look how far I've come. Look how far I am. I'm at the point where people really, really need what I have to offer. And so in my case, I was comparing and contrasting the other day when I started teaching free sessions for fundraisers who were endeavoring to use AI responsibly. And that was just last year in like March or April. And how, there were a few times where I showed up on my screen on the dates, I had RSVPs and it was just me. Just no one showed, and how it was so triggering around that whole, like, no one's coming to my party
Yeah.
phenomenon. And then over time, because everything takes, some marketing and awareness building, et cetera. Nobody probably, only a few people knew that I was sitting there on Zoom waiting for them and that they were missing out. But one of the things that's happened to me in that journey is that I've been channeling my mom, who passed away many, many years ago, because she was a teacher and a coach. And, I watched her transform people's lives in that particular role. I met the students who she was, taking under her wing, the tennis players who, had never picked up a racket before and then are doing fine and winning matches and stuff. And like having the existential experience of having my mom back in my life in such a present way, like that's really pretty big. Like, if I was quilting and my mom was a quilter, I may be having the same experience now, but um I feel like I'm outmatched often by just what is going on
Yeah.
and on like a spiritual level too.
Well, the thing is, we are really unprepared, and we are all inept at this moment because our brains are linear. And that's again a whole other hour conversation, but our brains work in a very linear way. When we think about what is the ideal future for humanity with AI, we can only go so far. We can only imagine based on kind of what we're coming from. I mean, some are better visionaries than others, but still, our brains are linear. And so we can't even fathom what the future with AI is going to be like, because AI advances at exponential rates, and is just going to again go far beyond what we can think about. And so, one other thing, going back to the question of what can people do, a lot of it is the mindset, right? In this
Mhm.
point in time, give give all of ourselves grace that nobody knows everything, nobody can know everything, and just think about what we can do, and not what's
Mm.
happening to us,
Mhm.
what's painful, because there will be major disruption, to be clear. I
Mhm.
mean, we're here, this ideal future with AI is here. There's going to be a messy middle for sure.
Messy, messy middle.
um, and so it's that mindset of resilience and abundance that is going to, help help us collectively navigate. When you were talking before, I forget exactly what you said, but it made me think of the Ram Dass quote, where he basically says, all we're doing is walking each other home. And he's
Oh,
referring to, we're just all on this planet, hanging out with each other until we pass and, go home. And it made me think about, all we're doing right now is collectively walking each other to the
yes.
future that, that
Yes.
we that we want, and that's the best that we can do. Some people will bring certain sets of expertise, and others. So but if we're kind of collectively walking each other toward that future, I'm optimistic it will be good.
I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. Let's all walk one another into the future side by side. We are fully in this together, as like somewhat lofty and maybe even cheesy as that sounds. We are so in this together, and
Mhm,
we are
mhm.
definitely stronger when we're together. Heidi, tell the nice people how they can get a hold of you and learn more and stay connected with you.
Yeah, sure. So, my website is thehumanitycode.ai, and you can pretty much get from everything, or from there to everything else. The social channels are all variations of that. And someone would like to reach out to me directly, it's Heidi at
Mm,
thehumanitycode.ai, and I would really, relish hearing from people, because
mm.
we just all have to learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you
Mm,
on the show, Heidi. I
Likewise, it's been a great
appreciate
conversation.
wonderful. I appreciate so much what you're up to and your leadership in this space. And I'm super grateful. And I know our guests are too. Um, Everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for pouring into your own AI journey, everything that you do to learn more and develop your own point of view
Mhm,
helps all of us. So
absolutely.
let's keep doing that together and walking each other home.
Beautiful.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Anne.